All right, would you look at that? We are live. So anyone who's joined us on our previous stream, we're going over the Starcraft miniatures and building those up. Just trying to get through everything that we need ready for our painting challenge, which is happening tomorrow. So if you're seeing this throughout the day on Friday, oh, that's lucky. Oh no, it's Thursday the 13th. Reasonably better. We're going to have a lot of Starcraft miniatures that are all getting painted up. Protoss Starter Set. There we go. Protoss Starter Set. That's all going to be painted up in roughly 12, well, not roughly, exactly 12 hours. We'll see if we can get through them all. If we can get through them all earlier, even better. But if not, then it's fine. But yes, that video should be coming out on Friday the 14th in the evening. There's a lot of work that goes into making sure that that video comes out on time. It's not going to be easy on my end, but you know what? It's worth it because you guys are going to enjoy it. We have the live chat just down here. So any of you see me like looking down a lot, I'm either building minis or I'm on the live chat. So yeah, head over to the comments and leave what you want to see. We're also looking to be doing these live, where's the words I'm looking for? These live streams every week or so. I want to ideally do at least one a week because it's a good place to update you on where I'm at in the game. Certainly, there's a lot of things that I am doing behind the scenes to make some amazing content, especially painting content, but also, you know, we've got lots of hobby content as well going forward. This is obviously quite a big game. So we're going to be showing off some of the miniatures that we've been building up. Obviously, if you look at something like the pylon there, it's incredibly intricate. That's the kind of thing that normally I'd be a little bit nervous in a 12-hour challenge to get through that. But because there is so much detail, you can kind of leave the shading to do most of the work for you. So we're going to let a few people come in. I have got quite a bit of stuff to actually work on. We're currently working on this sentry. So if we just show the sentry up there, so you can see they're partially built up. And we have a few little sections that we're going to have to build on there. And we're just going to check on Discord as well. If you want access to our exclusive Discord, we do also have our Patreon link down below. Currently, that's the only way, but roughly in about 3 weeks' time, we're also going to have YouTube membership as well, because we hit the first layer of YouTube partner programs. So any of you guys want to go over there? It should be good. Love it. Just thank someone over here. There we go. So I'm going to get back onto building for the Century. I'm going to open up our wonderful little build guide, which we have here. Again, any of you joining us, we are building the Protoss Starter Set, the Founders Edition. We do have an eclipse happening in roughly 20 minutes, so it might start to go surprisingly and strangely dark, which will be interesting. But yeah, if you guys want to stick around, leave some questions in the chat. I'm literally here to have a conversation whilst I'm building, and certainly, especially with StarCraft, I find that a lot of people that are coming into the game are brand new to the hobby. Not everyone, obviously, but bigger percentages are new to the hobby than, say, Warhammer, in terms of what I'm seeing on my channel, at least. So if you do have any questions, how to build your miniatures, paint them, things like that, get in there. If you want to know what these miniatures are like, certainly with things like mold lines, I did have, it wasn't a chunky mold line, but it was a very noticeable mold line on the front of Artanis's leg. So a little bit of a detail for you guys as well. If you look at Artanis there, his actual backpack / power pack comes off. So the idea with that is, if I leave this on or glue it in, I can't access the back of his miniature as well. You can see right through it. So a lot of times I build things in sub-assemblies. It just makes life a lot easier painting. In this case, every Protoss and pretty much every Zerg that I have to build is going to have to be primed before I build them up because of the clear plastic parts. It's very different from what I'm used to with things like Warhammer, where your entire miniature is just a grey piece of plastic, which isn't a problem, but certainly you don't have the added special, what's the word I'm looking for? The additional special effects that you get with StarCraft TMG. It's a really, really cool game. It plays particularly well, but it's also really fun to build. So let's get on with some of these entries, because tomorrow, if you've only just joined us, is going to be our 12-hour painting challenge to paint the Protoss. Now, I might try and go live during a bit of that. So if any of you guys aren't working through the day and you just want like a little bit of a teaser of what we're going to be, revealing for the end of the challenge, head over there. Now, what do we have here? We've got to see what parts we need. B3 and B4. B3 on here. They're all labeled quite nicely. Everything that has a number has also got some arrows to it. So any of you in the States that are wanting to build these, they are certainly going to be easy enough to find your parts. There is a mistake on the Protoss sprue, which leads you to get, I don't think it's a bad looking miniature, but it's that zealot there. So both, I'll call them 3 or C. It says C in the book, but it's the 3rd miniature build. Both of those, the right arm is the wrong arm, which sounds a bit silly. I find it plays like Legion with the quality of 40k and the side quest elements of Asoif. So I've never played Legion. One of the gents that we have in my Discord, he does. So certainly I'm not the expert in there. For me, this game is like a wargaming version of 40k Kill Team. Again, slightly different, but with that, again, it's like that element of back and forth. I like games that don't leave you waiting for half an hour for your player to move 200 Imperial Guardsmen. So it is a very cleverly designed game. And A Song of Ice and Fire. I did not realize that they had a tabletop game for that. You learn something new every day. All right, we'll have to get a look at some of their miniatures. Can you tell me who makes them? Just leave that in the chat, because I would be interested in having a good look at those. Like, I obviously love a lot of things that are fantasy, but Game of Thrones is, obviously I say Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, but Game of Thrones is right up there. I just wish the TV series ended on a better note. But hey, we don't control everything in this world, do we? And Dan and Dave, who were the writers, did a very good job for 6 seasons and then just fell off a cliff. Very bizarre. But it's okay, because we could all see the Mad Queen going crazy. Simon, admittedly, it's in a weird place at the moment with their all the troubles. Is that troubles with like production, or is that troubles with like shipping, or what kind of problems would I be expecting to encounter if I was to actually commit to purchasing something like that for the channel? Because I presume it's a very good game. Although, also me, I don't particularly want to learn more rules at the minute. But again, paint the miniatures. I'll paint a few of the miniatures. I think that would be really cool. Company issues. Oh. Well, that probably really, really sucks for them. Like, it's very hard to create these games on smaller scales, because StarCraft has obviously brought in a massive audience, because StarCraft has a massive audience. Don't mind me. Every now and then I might be looking out, but I'm waiting for this eclipse to sort of like start taking effect. I think it's only a partial eclipse in the UK. But yeah, to go back to that point, I think a lot of companies outside of Games Workshop, I'm sure even Archon Studios have, prior to StarCraft, had lots of problems with just trying to get these games built and out there, because it's an expensive thing to do. If you're just printing resin miniatures, I don't mean like personal printing, I mean like as a company, doing like metal minis or resin minis versus, mass production tooling. that's really expensive. Like, I don't know how much Archon will be spending for their tools, but obviously the precision in these things has to be like within microns. So to create the tools for them is insanely hard. So I have a lot of respect for Archon Studios for being able to make these miniatures as good as they are. Also, any of you that do have the StarCraft miniatures, this little sentry guy, there's like a little nubbin. Just try and get it in shot there. That connects the golden sort of like front section to the little ball, and it's within the center. There's like, I don't know if you can see that, but there's two clear plastics, and in the middle one there's one arm that comes out, and it's a really awkward looking thing. You don't notice that that is like an integral piece because it just looks like Spruegate. That they could possibly have tried to find a way around that, but obviously everything's designed in CAD/CAM. Everyone knows how to build these tools to like the highest form of precision. So I guess there was just no other way. But it did get clipped off just because you can't tell looking at the thing. But yeah, not the end of the world. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I just had to glue the piece on separately afterwards. Now, I'm swapping over to Citadel glue. If, again, any of you are new to Wargaming, we have our Tamiya extra thin plastic cement. That is a very good all-round plastic glue. That's not the quick setting one, but you can get quick setting ones. The difference in terms of how quickly they set is quite minimal. But we're going to use Citadel for anything that is basically a small point of attachment. And in this case, it's just like a pin and then just a tiny little bit outside of a pin. It's really not a lot. So we just want a tiny little dab of that. And we don't need it to necessarily spread. Although, again, is that pin already broken off of there? How's that happened? Don't get me wrong, the quality of the miniatures is very good. But every now and then you'll find a fault. In this case, I don't think... let me just... Because I've not clipped it. So there should be a little nubbin in there. And I don't see a long, fine nubbin. That's supposed to go into like the little side, little hole at the bottom there. And that obviously guides it in so that you can put this in the correct place. So which faction are you most excited to see how they flesh out? I'm going to say Protoss. Protoss, when I used to play the video games a lot, was like my favorite faction. I mean, they are like kings for me. However, I'm quite excited to see what they do for Terrans. I know in the Ask Me Anything, Jarek said that they're not going to make battle cruisers, which kind of like, hit me in the heart. I love like that style of like Halo miniature in the same way that I don't own a Titan, but at the same time, I go to Warhammer World, look at a Warlord Titan and think, yeah, if I ever was in a lucky enough position where I can just go splurge $2,500 on that thing as a business expense, of course, then it's nice to know that that miniature has been given the time and respect. And I think a battle cruiser for Archon Studios, I think Jarek sees it as sort of a flamboyant like model that no one needs or has asked for, where I think in reality there isn't a StarCraft fan out there that wouldn't want to have, a battle cruiser or a carrier or, even the Leviathan. I don't care if it's scaled down. Put it on a taller base so that it's like sitting a foot above the air. So it looks like it's, higher up in the atmosphere. Battlecruiser scaling would be a nightmare game-wise. They would be a cool studio diorama piece, though. They are going to be doing, I think they said, like, terrain pieces. And again, I understand the scaling if you did it to true scale. But, I mean, Blizzard can't really tell Archon that they have to do that when Blizzard themselves did not do that. Now, a battlecruiser is beyond like imagination. In fact, the only time that I think that we've seen a true scaled battle cruiser was the StarCraft 2 launch trailer, where where the Zerg are charging the front line of Mengsk's forces, and there in the background you see the downed battle cruiser as it falls through the sky. Sure, that scale, impossible. But do it to the scale of the video game. That way, yeah, it might end up looking like it's only a third of the size bigger than like a science vessel or I'm not going to say a Wraith, but like a dropship. It might look wrong, but then the way to fix that, I think, is to have a taller flying base. That way it sits above everything, and looking from the ground up, it just looks like it's just further away. It's not the perfect solution, but I think it's a solution that people would be more satisfied for than not having a battlecruiser or a carrier in the game. Because at the end of the day, these are Halo pieces. Yet they're going to look amazing on a diorama, but I think just having them exist as physical miniatures, I mean, this wall isn't exactly the ideal place yet to put on various dioramas, but you can imagine, a display cabinet just across here somewhere with a battle cruiser just sat in there. In the same way that you put in a Titan or a Stormbird. They're impractical for the game, but for, StarCraft fans, they're great. And yeah, add some rules to them. Let us actually play them, even if they're half the size of the board. It's fine. Who's really going to complain? We're all going to enjoy it because they'll look incredible. Right, I now have to put on some clear plastics. So the last time we did this stream, I only built the pylon. And I built the pylon in like the last 30 minutes. So it wasn't exactly everything going to plan. This time around, I do have to make a bit of progress because tomorrow is going to be a 12-hour painting challenge to get the entire Protoss starter set painted. So everything is currently primed in Colourforge's Gauntlet Gold, and the techniques that we're going to use on there, I'll obviously describe in full during the video, but we'll also, if I can, I'll just pop in a little live stream as well. If you guys want to watch me paint for an hour or two. Hi, if they won't make a battle cruiser and carrier, we're going to make a protest at Archon's headquarters. The thing is, though, Simon or Shimon really wants to see them in. It's only Jarek who's opposing it. I say only Jarek. I'm sure there are members of the team, the design team, that go, this is 50 sprues or 50 tools, and this is ridiculous to make. But I mean, look at the siege tank. The siege tank is the size roughly of a Baneblade. It's enormous. And yet they made it. It's 7 full tools, and the price of it is, what, half the price of what we would pay for the words I'm looking for. Sorry, I'm half looking out for this bloody eclipse as well. The price of that is half the price of a Baneblade. It's about $80 US, which in a rough or a basic currency exchange is about £60. Prices of Warhammer products in the UK are obviously a lot cheaper than anywhere else in the world. So we do have a little disparity there. But then again, if it's $79 US for a siege tank, and the US is going to be, in fact, if you're in the US, please do actually tell me how much is a Baneblade in dollars for you to just buy directly from Games Workshop, not any third parties. I want to have like for like. But you do get a good idea that Archon are so much cheaper. They could probably get away with making, let's say, if you did have to make something as extreme as, like, I don't think they'd have to make 50 sprues, but even if you were going up to 20 sprues, would you be willing to pay $250 US for a battle cruiser? I mean, if they can make profit on that, I think they'd sell them their droves. It's extremely expensive, but then there is a place in the market for it because Forge World exists, and there are people buying expensive resin for significant amounts more. 4 digits in pounds, let alone in dollars. It'd be nice if we get a photon cannon for Protoss and bunker for Terran. I know that we're going to be getting bunkers. I say I know that. They've not like announced it, but at the same time, Jarek is very good at just generally communicating things that we all want to hear. And he has said that bunkers are on the cards. So I would expect bunkers. This pylon is amazing. Like, I am in love with this thing. Again, you play the game, and this is just a thing that you can build extra force fields from and teleport troops in. You see it on your board as a big thing, and it's like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Actually, that's an awesome miniature. Yeah, we're going to get photon cannons. I'm sure we'll get photon cannons, missile turrets. I think basic defenses we'll get, because they'll also do like the sunken colonies and stuff like that for Zerg. GW made the Tau Manta. Archon needs to do those big ships. Yeah, and if you look at the Manta, do they describe the Manta as being perfectly in scale? I think they do, in terms of in-game. And when you see a Manta, if any of you have been to Warhammer World, if you're not in the UK, they have a massive Tau diorama. And in the center of this diorama is a Manta. And it is probably about maybe a 1/10 of the board, which doesn't sound like much, but the board is bigger than this room. It's humongous, and it has like Titans, and you've got Titans, you've got Storm Surges looking like basic infantry because they're that small in comparison. You have lots of what's the large one? The Talvar suit. I'd love to get one of those as well. Again, a couple £100. I have the Storm Surge, and it's an awesome machine, an awesome thing to build, awesome thing to paint, nicely detailed. And I didn't do it in the taking a dump pose. It's not squatting, so that it looks way too low. It looks really tall. It's like, it's maximum height, but still looking like it's bracing in for a shot. So I can quite comfortably see. Might take them 5-6 years. It might be towards the end of like where they have things that they can build, and they'll go, yeah, screw it. Let's make a battle cruiser for people. I can see it happening. And if it doesn't happen, then it's just a sad, sad day for the world, isn't it? All right, let me just see if I can find the correct pieces that we've got. Go over here. So we've got B6 and B7. I am trying to do a little bit of building, but again, always leave some comments down there, and then as I get on, I can simply jump on and answer a few questions. The current plan has been, and currently executed, the Zerg and Protoss are all having their sprues, have all had their sprues painted separately. This is not the regular plastic. This is Gauntlet Gold by Colourforge. It's being blown out by the light a bit, which is why it has that sort of, yellowish quality to it. But it very much so has been all primed up, ready so that all the clear plastics can get glued in, and we don't lose any details when we're trying to base coat them. Obviously, I've seen a lot of people, when they're painting these miniatures, they have gone to the lengths of building them and then having to paint over the entire thing, and then having to build up, all the layers it takes to make a good looking energy blade at that point. For me, I love this clear plastic. It's entirely new to me, and this is the first game that I've had kind of these special effects for. So I think they look amazing, and I want to take advantage of every single one of them. Right, we've got 6. 6 is going on the top. So here we have our sentry. We've got 1 of 2. So we need to get this one built up. These are super simple. I mean, could you get away with just not gluing these in? Yeah. Right. So if I can show this to you, I might have to just put my hand behind it just so you can see it. You see all those teeth that are in there? They literally just sit in the little gaps in there. So you don't have to glue these in, and it just means that you can go over this piece and paint it all without this. No worries about accidentally going over this. If you want, you can backlight these a little bit more. You can paint bits of white in there. all that kind of stuff that just makes your miniature look a little bit better without any like repercussions of, you know, getting paint on things that you don't want paint to go on. Obviously, you don't want to put opaque paints on top of transparent plastic. It's like a tongue twister. Right, now we need B7. Okay, I've done these in a good order. The actual sprue layouts as well are pretty good. I can't remember having a big issue with like a sprue piece that should have been, you know, next to another piece and wasn't. They all seem to be in the right order. If you're working on miniature A, everything's clustered together, which is kind of how I like things to be. The worst Games Workshop miniature, maybe not the worst, I think that's a bad way to put it, but Gazgul was a bit of a pain because a lot of his pieces were spread amongst like different parts, which is just minorly frustrating. It's nothing that's particularly bad, but certainly when you're, you know, not in a challenge, but you're trying to build up your miniature and enjoy the process, it's difficult when the part that you're looking for is on the other sprue from the part that is like right next to it. It just seemed illogical, but making these sprues so dense these days is just that difficult. I really like the clear plastic on the Protoss, except for the Adepts. The clear plastic on the shield look odd. I'm yet to build the Adepts, so I will have a good look of it. The next thing that we're building after these Sentries is going to be the Adepts. Let's have a look. Right, funnily enough, this is B8 at the bottom. It should go on the top, but they all seem to fit in either way. I mean, there's a specific... I mean, they clearly wanted to do a specific style, but they fit in regardless of which position you put them in. So, again, don't constrain yourself. So, with the Adept, I've obviously seen, like, one of them with, like, the pulse coming out of it. One of them's building up, and some of them are they just look like shields. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they look building them up. I've heard they're very complex. And I don't know if part of that has to do with, like, the generator on the back. Again, if I can, I'm going to do what I did with Artanis. I bought the Orc Boys from the Armageddon box. The parts were all over the place. Yep. Again, Archon Studios, to their credit, like, the layouts have currently been really good, really strong. And again, these are the things that, as a player, you will feel the difference of. But obviously, when you buy these miniatures, you don't exactly buy it going, oh, well, I hope all of these pieces are in the right place, because they just should be. So, yeah. It's frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. With the Archon stuff, I'm really impressed. And these are still densely packed sprues. It's not like they've scrimped out on us. All right, so I know that you guys can't see this, but update, outside now is starting to get dark, so the eclipse is starting to come over. So I think we are getting a total eclipse. I think it's only in parts of the UK, so it'd be like Ireland or something like that it's coming through. But we should have quite a strong partial eclipse because we're just outside of that zone. At some point, I'll have to go for some water as well because I can feel my throat getting a bit. Don't know what the right word for it is. Like inflamed. Just because if you didn't know, I'm an actor. I've been acting all day. Done a 3-hour drive. I'm here, and now we're cracking back on. Right. So that Sentry looks fantastic. I forgot that I actually could show you it. There we go. Again, any of you who have these miniatures, you all know what you're looking at. For those of you who are in the US, Canada, or Australia and New Zealand, who are still waiting for their miniatures, obviously I'm going to be doing quite a lot of content in the coming weeks, so you're at least going to have something to tide you over just whilst you're waiting for your miniatures to come in. And then we'll have live streams and stuff like that as we go forward as well. Now, once we do hit towards September time, we are going to be doing a mixture of Warhammer and Starcraft, which obviously is just part of the parcel. I have to make sure that, you know, I'm not leaving out one community for the other, so we all get an equal share. So it should be roughly a 50-50 split, but also in the live streams, which, like I say, I'm looking to do roughly every Friday, but we might do a poll. We'll do a poll in the community posts so that if you guys want me to do the live stream on different days, we can have a look at what works best for everyone. But obviously, it's hard to do that just from like this step. Now, I'm going to go on to building the adepts. The sentry, I can build the second one later. We have an example. And the first adept is more of a pain than you expect, but it makes sense where stuff goes. The rest fly together. Okay. So let's have a look. Where is the first adept? It is before the sentry. I have built obviously the hologram. Will this even focus? It's a really cool miniature. It's also impossibly hard to see when you're building just clear miniatures as to where things should be like locating. So you have to get used to dry fitting. Once you've got the dry fit right, Tamiya straight in that gap. Just let it find every crevice it needs. Right. Okay, adepts are quite plentiful in this book. I'd say there's more pages dedicated to the adepts than there is the zealots. Right, let's get on with them. Okay. Just going to put my spare sprues over there. We have another one for the sentry, as well as the pylon. Also, I do tend to build a lot of things in subassembly. It just makes everything easier, to a point where with Artanis, I wasn't going to glue him onto his base, but I decided that I could still reach everything that I needed to, certainly from all the angles that you're going to see it. And despite the fact he's going to be using the painting challenge, certain things that are being glued onto other things, like his hand there, his hand has been painted in just like Eshin Grey. So little things like that where I want the underside to at least be the correct tone. We've done that, but everything else is just primed, ready to go for the challenge. But yeah, his backpack. I keep saying backpack like it stores things. It's not a backpack. His power pack thing. Or his channel, whatever you'd call that. But yeah, that just comes right out. Just makes life, makes life easier when you're working on the back end of it. Same with all of the energy shields that you see. All of those are going to be built or placed onto the base once it's all been painted. Because a bit like the Sentry Dome, that idea with the way that I've done the base on there, I've done a tester. You should be able to see through there. You can just see the grass tufts. So I want it to look like a living world underneath there, not just a black base. So again, nice clear base. I don't think you actually ever need to glue these on. Like, there is no advantage in gluing that on. So I'm probably just going to leave that free. Now, just give me roughly 30 seconds. I'm just going to go get my drink because, damn, it is hot in here. It's been a really hot day. So, yeah, back in a few seconds. Won't be long. Hey, Sally. Good boy. Also, I could see the eclipse. Right, we are back. Let's put this on. What time are we on? 10 minutes past. I could just see the... you know when you're left like an impression when you look at the sun, you can see like that just ball of like bluey green that's just like burnt into your retinas. So I can see like the little semicircle in there. So it's like a bit out apple. Catch my breath racing around. Right. Sentries. No, adepts. We have one of two plastic sprues here. And I think these were different sprues, if I remember correctly. Let's have a look. Don't know, actually. No, they're identical sprues. But hopefully in, the same sort of layouts. As in, like, miniature one is in cluster one, etc. Right. Starting with A7 and A5. So let's go find those. We found A6, which is good. A7. So yeah, yesterday we had lots and lots of back and forths in the... Not yesterday. What day was it? 2 days ago? Yeah, it had been Monday. Hi, my life is a blur. I do lots of work and very little else. So Monday's stream was supposed to be lots and lots of building. It ended up being lots and lots of chatting, which was great. But it does mean that I'm behind and I need to be on schedule tomorrow because obviously this challenge needs to start at around 9 or 10 o'clock. Again, I think if I have extra time and manage to get everything done early, that would be amazing. But chances are I'm going to run to the limit of the 12 hours. I think the golds are going to look incredible regardless. My technique for the golds, you can see it is the Lion in 12 Hours painting challenge. If you go onto my painting challenges on the playlist and have a look at the Lion, just have a little watch of that if you want to see what my golds are going to look like. And pretty much what we have done for him. Now, with these adepts, they're going to take a little bit more painting. And it's the same with Artanis. So Artanis, I'm doing the ceramic style details, that grey. Sort of a warmish light grey. So I need to figure out exactly the colour that I want for that. But it's going to be the exact same for the adepts as well, I think. Going off of... I quite like the art box style. So that's kind of where I'm going for. Not to say that you can't do your own thing. I've seen some people doing what they call the not evil Protoss, but the Protoss that are black with red blades and stuff like that. Obviously, I was playing a lot of StarCraft when I started ordering this miniatures game. I've obviously played it since I was a child, if you didn't know. It is a big part of my childhood. But in terms of recently playing it through, that was the last time I played it. And yeah, I've kind of forgotten things in that time because I've been doing so many different projects. Again, joys of being a working actor. This sun is really weird, by the way. Everything is grey outside. There's no saturation. We're gonna see if... Ooh, that was loud. Sorry about that. I'm just going to see if the sun is looking more or less eclipsed. One moment. Whoa. Right, I don't really have a spare camera. I was going to take a picture of it, actually, and then, show you the front face of it. But alas, we can't do it. I think we're only getting a partial. It seems to be if that's the sun, we started off with that, and it seems to be moving across like that, as opposed to over the entire thing. We're not getting pitch black or anything like that here. But it's cool. I like these kind of solar events. I also love how predictable they are. There's something just magical about human ingenuity that we've figured out the motions of our solar system. Takes quite a lot of minds having to fight against a lot of systems for these kind of things to actually happen. I think the first person to say, do you think... So I'll just read this. Do you think we'd also get Thor for Terran, Colossus for Protoss, Ultralisk for Zerg? Yes, 100%. I I'm pretty certain Jarek has already said they're thinking about the Thor. The Thor would be something like 15 sprues for them. Or it'd be a lot of sprues, because obviously it's a humongous thing. But I think they've even considered doing, what's the even larger one than the Thor? The one that you play for that one mission. It's left my head, but I think they even considered making that. So there's certain miniatures that they're going to go in. Some have been like playable miniatures in the game, in a video game. Some of them have just been like little lore snippets. And they're planning on making things for all of those. Because again, you know, they've got the Blizzard playbook. So they know all of the miniatures that exist in the universe. Colossus is going to be an interesting one because it'll be such a tall piece. Like, depending on how they scale things, if they're doing true scale for everything, I think we won't even have a science vessel. Like a science, there's like the second or third mission in StarCraft 1, and that is aboard a science vessel, and you're running rampant on there. It's humongous. Like, if this was a Colossus, I think this miniature would be half the size. So it is kind of how big are they going to go? Oh, Spain's getting a full eclipse. All right, that's cool. Do we have anyone in here from Spain? I know you're from Poland, but if we have anyone in here from anywhere that is getting this eclipse coming across, if you actually do manage to get a picture of it, that would be freaking awesome. I obviously don't want to take like the camera and go walk out because, you know, not to say you lot would do that, but there are people that can literally just see a view and go, I can pinpoint exactly where this person lives. Mental, absolutely mental. Don't get me wrong, the internet is a very dangerous place, and they can probably do that regardless of what is existing in the internet. But yeah, we don't want to just be giving that information away for free. Ultralisks, certainly, and the Ultralisk is going to be gargantuan. Like, when you look at the StarCraft, I was about to say Space Marine 2, very different game. When you look at the Ultralisk in StarCraft 2 in that trailer, when it just curb stomps and completely destroys a siege tank, which I have some faults with. I'm pretty sure if you did that to a siege tank and then blew up its munitions, that Ultralisk is still losing its leg. And then it's going to be a little tripod hopping along. So, yeah, you know, I don't think they had the time or the budget to necessarily go to that detail. But yeah, Ultralisk will absolutely be coming. And hopefully they do both versions as well, like a StarCraft 1 version and a StarCraft 2 version. They're obviously very different scales. Right, we have 2 legs. Now we need a body. So we're just trying to find a 1, which I can see one of them. It's 4 adepts. Oh, of course, yeah. There's only going to be 2 on this sprue. There we go, A1. Just make sure I don't clip something that I shouldn't be clipping. Do they not have armor on their back? Is that just exposed back muscle? It kind of looks it. Also, it is a bit strange. Like, you have aliens with various forms of like boobs, which I always find a bit weird because it's like, surely not every alien race has to like evolve the way that we have. Some should just be like the Tau. I mean, the Tau are a great example of how to create like a Xenos race where they both genders look the same and they both perform, you know, similarly. And it's just a case of like, you know, they're all treated as equal. But certainly, like, it's that style of having something that is similar. They're bipedal. They've got hooves instead of feet, but very much so a case of they're a very different alien race to us. I like that. I like that we can have out-of-the-box thinking with them. Also, the amount of blobs of plastic glue that are coming out of my Citadel brush. It is quite disgusting. Also, tomorrow morning between 4 to 5 a.m. EU time, 6 planets will be in line. Yes, so I used to, I mean, I still have my telescope. Well, my telescope is at my mother's house because I've moved here, and There's not enough space, really, unfortunately. But again, that is the thing that I had a lot of joy for. So I used to take photos of like the planets and stuff with my iPhone using a mount and obviously using the telescope lens. We'd have to line up the lens so it like matches with where the light's coming through. I used to really, really enjoy it. Like a big part of my childhood. Right, let's see how well this slots in. Okay, that's slotted in quite nicely. I'm just going to have a quick little look at the back of the box on this, because I'm quite intrigued. So we have our adepts. I mean, they just have a load of exposed flesh, you know. They're like, a lot of that miniature looks just like musculature. So it's literally just an exposed core there. I'm like, oh, okay. I thought Protoss would have a bit more protection. Yeah, up to date with chat. Again, any questions that you have or want to know, or just generally chat, then I'm more than happy. Just leave something in the comments and we'll get talking. Now, whenever I'm building miniatures like this, I always look out for things that I can get away with in sub-assemblies. For this particular miniature, I'm thinking cloaks. The cloaks that go around them are going to be very difficult to paint after the fact. So how do I problem solve for that? I can either not glue them on and glue them on after they've been painted, which is, you know, it's a process that will work. Or alternatively, I can not glue them to their bases so that when I'm painting the insides of the cloaks, I have access to paint everything that I need. That might be the better option. We're not entirely sure just yet. Yeah, we can whack up another thing up here as well. It's like just stack everything, just create like some noise in the background. But yeah, the joys of having, you know, a room that is multifunctional. Also, how many other people got like little nubbins on the end of their bases? It's not a big deal, but it's one of those things that you don't usually see. So it's quite interesting to see when little differences come up. Most of my miniature gaming experience is from Games Workshop, and that is obviously across different lineups like Lord of the Rings, Fantasy, 40k, Heresy, and stuff like that. So there are different tool makers involved in those, but equally they are kind of, you know, it's all under the same line, it's all under the same control. Bases, for instance, are shared and all that kind of jazz. All right, these are very slender in comparison to like Zealots. So next up, yeah, we have to build these with cloaks. Just having a look at it now, if you don't build it with cloaks, what seems to happen is you can't attach the back piece to it. And that would be a shame. So let's go and look at what capes we need. This happens a lot, and I found it with the Zealots. They want you to put the head on quite early. And what I found with the Zealots is the heads go on at the end when you've seen the posing, and you can see which way you want your Zealot to look. So don't rush into everything. Dry fit things. Use your imagination of how you want to, you know, adjust these elements. Also, the Zealots are super cool. Like, I can't get over just how bloody aggressive they are. Again, I think he is possibly another one of those ones that didn't have the correct right arm. So his pose actually differs compared to the instruction manual. It doesn't make a big difference, though. Also, let me just try and pronounce your name. Is it Waltek? Just correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly, is a J pronounced as an L, so it'd be like Waltek. Or would it be? If you can write down the phonetics of how to pronounce your name, that'd actually be really, really useful. But with you being, oh no, you're getting the LGS one, aren't you? You're getting it from your local game store. I wonder if you get the golden ticket. It'd be nice if you do. Like, someone's going to get that golden ticket. Had the same with bases and Zealot box. Not a big deal, though. Yeah, I've taken out the starter set bag full of them. That's the first one that I've come across and looked at and gone, oh, why is that there? So, not a big deal. Yeah, super easy. These take 2 seconds to use. So, we don't lose sleep over it. Let's see, what have we got to build on here? A2. Let's go find our A's. I'm really looking forward to getting these like shield sections on. I know they're not shields, it's like I presume it's like a psychic, like attunement sort of thing before they release psionic energies. I keep saying psychic, it's not Games Workshop. It's a slightly different thing. But yeah, psionic energies. Like a focus, that's the word I'm looking for. Some D&D knowledge finally being useful in life. Right. This is clipping up okay. What I tend to find as well with these Archon ones, I don't know if you notice it as well. Usually with Warhammer, you clip at the sprue gate and you get the vast majority of it off. This seems to have like a little bit of a run just over the edge. Like it just continues on where it shouldn't really exist. Not the end of the world. Like a big tuning fork. Yeah, exactly. With Warhammer, we obviously have 9 million books to look at, read, see how the writer of the day considers how these things work. With Starcraft, I mean, if you want how something works to the maximum, like, of any detail, it's in this thing. If it's not in your field manual, you might be lucky and see something somewhere on a wiki that popped up in like a little lore section somewhere. But for the most part, they are tucked away and hidden in things like that. And again, that was a collector's edition. So you can get them online used. That was £40 for me to get the Legacy of the Void. Really, well priced considering it was a collector's edition and it was sealed. Amazing. It had a tiny bit of damage on the box, which I think is why I got it so cheap. But I'm not complaining because I'm not someone who gets something to leave it in a box and let the value just go up and up and up and up. I want to use the things that I have. Hopefully you lot are the same. Right, A3 and A4 for the next piece. And then I presume these two get clipped together. Oh no, that just gets done after. Again, if I can, I'll play about with dry fitting because I think this would be useful for people if they're able to just dry fit these pieces together and it can just sit on the back. Wojtek, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, let me know if Wojtek is correct, and then at least going forward, I don't have to butcher your name. That's no fun for anyone. And the English amongst all of the Europeans are usually the laziest when it comes to language because we are the language of business and pretty much everyone speaks English, but we don't then learn. Well, we do have people obviously that learn various different languages, but on the whole, as a general populace, we're not like language savvy, which is why we have stupid things like calling Germany Deutschland, which is like, calling Deutschland Germany, which should be you should call the country what its actual name is. I think it's a very weird thing in language. I'm still waiting for my starters, but managed to get my hands on Zealot's box, and I got Zeratul from Archon directly. Isn't Zeratul such a cool miniature? Like, I'm looking forward to painting like the proper miniature, the full promo, giving it the full treatment. I might even do a challenge video for it, like to paint someone his size. To do it with the detail that I probably want about 4 or 5 hours. So I might do like a 4-hour challenge, give myself like a little bit of like a push that I have to get the timing down. But painting this guy, I'm just covering my face so it focuses. Like just doing the tint on the blade. So it's like the only thing you can see is the blade that's going to slice you down to ribbons. He is such a cool mini. The posing is fantastic. I need to add like some mossy elements to the base, which I'm going to do with a thinned down contrast and just build up a few little layers so it looks like a build-up of gunk. You know, like that slimy moss that you see on walls, where it's not like thick fluff, it's just like a green slime. It's like algae. That's kind of what I'm wanting to do. Okay. How do I pronounce Jarek correctly? That again, phonetically, just again, you know, I'm learning. So the more I learn, the better, and the less I just butcher people's names, the better as well. And again, you are the perfect person to actually give me this advice. So yeah, please let me know how to pronounce his name correctly. I've obviously seen in the core rulebook his full name, which is very different. But yeah, I need to remember these things because I'm going to be saying his name quite a lot. Simon is Shimon, is that right? Obviously, I hear Jarek say that quite a bit, so I think that's correct. But then I don't hear it back from Shimon. So yeah, languages are interesting. And obviously, we all come up with different languages, different cultures, and it's better that we actually get used to each other rather than creating like that otherness. I think tribalism is a particularly bad. What's the word I'm looking for? It used to be like a safety tool that we all knew our tribe. Nowadays, I think we've gone a little bit beyond that, and it's just become an excuse for violence for people, which is always a shame. Especially in, you know, the state of the world at the minute. Lots of tribalism going on, lots of excuses to commit various atrocities, which is fun in video games and in miniature games, but in real life, it's just freaking stupid, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, let's go avoid some politics and get some plastic attached to itself. So again, nice blob of Tamiya. Shimon is correct. Yarek. Yeah, if Yarek is right, then that's actually super easy. That's just like Commissar Yarek. That would be quite an easy one to remember then. I'm still waiting for my pre-order for Starcraft, but I am wondering if it's first timer friendly to build and paint. So waiting for your miniatures is actually a bonus for you because you're going to have time to be able to go through this content. I do have a full comprehensive build guide for Warhammer. That's like a 45-minute long video. Feel free to go watch that. I go through everything, explaining everything from the gates, how these things are made, so you understand why things are done in certain ways, so that you don't just become someone on the internet that goes, why are these built in such a crap way? It's a very complex thing to make the tooling that makes these components. So if you want to watch that, there's a fully comprehensive guide. If that is too much time for you, there is a 15-minute video. I think it'd be like the third video down, which is specifically StarCraft, which is me building Zeratul. So again, with StarCraft specifically, because you have a mixture of clear components with opaque plastics, i.e., you know, you can't see through them, they're solid plastic, versus you can see through them because they're a transparent plastic. With those, what I have done to make my life easier when it comes to painting is I have base coated or primed, which is to get an initial layer of paint that sticks really strongly onto the plastics. I've done that whilst they're on the sprue. So the gold that these are underneath, because they do come colored, you don't have to paint any of these miniatures, by the way. They are coming in army faction colors. So your Zerg will be purple, your Terrans will be blue, and your Protoss will be, it's an ochre, but it's a, you know, a metallic-ish goldy yellow. It's not a perfect gold though. Like that is blown out by a camera, so it's hard to see. In fact, going off of what I can see on the camera down there, it's a similar color to that. But not in terms of in real life. In real life, this is like a shimmery metallic gold. Oh, good. Thank you. Yarrick is correct. So have a look at those guides. In terms of painting it, don't rush. I would hold off. I would 100% be going through the route with the Zerg and the Protoss of base coating or priming. This is with a spray can, so let me just get out an example for you, just so you can get a rough idea as to what you need. So this is a Citadel paint. This isn't the correct color that I would use for this. For this, I used Colorforge's Gauntlet Gold. You can also use Retributor Armor from Citadel Paints / Warhammer Paints, as they're changing the name to. As long as it's a reasonably good, reputable company, you should be fine. But Colorforge and Citadel both create very good paints. And you do a technique called feathering, which is when you're spraying, you are doing quick little bursts. So you're always with movement. You don't want to hold and spray, because what ends up happening is you overload the plastic with paint and you lose details. So it is complex in some aspects, but once you go through like your first sprue and you have like that light mist, you don't do it right up close, you don't do it too far away. You want to do it roughly about anywhere around 8 inches, centimeters, like 20 centimeters. Is that right? I think so. Yeah, roughly 15 to 20 centimeters. So constantly in motion, just moving around, and try not to spray on your fingers, but it will come off. What I tend to do is, like, if I'm holding it from that section, I won't spray that piece. I'll spray everything else on there. I will then flip it around, spray the back side of it. Once it's all dried, which only takes about 30 seconds to a minute with these kinds of paints, but you can see and feel it once it goes really matte. Then I'll flip it around, do that last corner, both sides, one sprue done. It's a little time consuming, but it's actually worth doing the time-consuming priming now than having built up your miniature so that you have this, but in with no paint on it whatsoever. And when you go over to paint it, you end up, scrapping off bits like the... Sorry, let me just cover up my face so you don't see that. So you end up painting over the clear plastic sections. That's no fun, because these clear plastic sections, I think, are one of the parts of the Starcraft miniature game that I love the most. It's like special effects. So yeah, just go in, take your time, go through as many guides as you need. When I do the Protoss painting guide, you're going to see a lot of high definition video footage of them. That's going to be nicely cut together, but throughout like the video, there will be a guide of how to actually paint them. It might be like, it'll be stage by stage. So I'll be using mostly Citadel paints, not entirely, but mostly. So you'll find that this Gauntlet Gold from Colorforge is going to be not sprayed over, it's going to be painted over with a color from Citadel / Warhammer, which is called Drakenhof Nightshade. So we're going for this oldie worldy gold. In fact, if you wait there a second, I will show you the gold that we're going to use. Let me get my Lionel Johnson miniature and you can see his shoulder. And you'll figure out, oh yeah, this is a really nice ancient looking gold. It's going to look amazing. So, oh yeah, this is Bob, by the way. He wasn't the winner, but it was my granddad's name. So we got good old Bob, the Intercessor. He's impossible to kill because he's a named Warhammer character and an Ultramarine. It's just impossible to hurt him. Okay, I am back. That was only 2 seconds. And only one person left. Beautiful. Let me show you who all decided to stay. The state of the gold on his miniature. You can see that? It's a very ancient looking gold. And then when we look at the lion insignia or the lion on his shoulder there. There you go. So going to like a bluey grey in the gold, you end up having this vintage tarnished look to it. Now, the golds that we use for jewelry don't tarnish usually because they're 18 or 24 karat gold. They are very soft. Now, these are golds that we're using for armors. Therefore, the alloy of gold is going to be less gold, more, things like titanium and stuff like that. Although titanium is a bad example because that doesn't particularly want to oxidize either. But certain things, nickel, anything like that goes in there that can potentially have a chemical reaction, that's what's happening to this armor after time. So we're going to be going from this really rich gold to this very subdued, ancient-looking gold. I want my zealots to look like they are, hundreds of years old, incredibly wise, maybe even that the armor is passed down from zealot to zealot, or from, Protoss to Protoss as they pass on, or they lose their skills, or they fade with time. Whatever. I want them to look like they are super elite, they've seen some stuff, and they know how to fight. And certainly with Space Marines, it's quite easy to do. I mean, again, we have Bob. And Bob is very good because his armor is chipped to holy heaven. Although it's Warhammer 40k, I mean, that could literally just have been like a fleck of paint, just like hitting it and Mach like 9 whilst he's doing atmospheric entry. Who'd have known? But yeah, the weapons in Warhammer are disgusting. What's your go-to paint range? So for me, it's mostly Citadel paints. That doesn't mean that they're the best paints or anything like that. I tend to find quite a lot of the times people think that certainly the brand that they use is the best paint that exists. Sure, that's human nature. In reality, it doesn't matter if you're Citadel, doesn't matter if you're Pro Acryl or Army Painter, you have good and bad paints. So I think the smart thing to do is, as you're building up your paint collection, regardless of what range you go for, if you find one that you don't like or doesn't mix well or whatever the reason, it doesn't work for you, don't keep buying that paint. Don't stop buying from that manufacturer, but swap that paint out for something else. So for me, White Scar doesn't go on opaque enough. It is almost like a thin white. It's frustratingly thin. So I replaced that with Pro Acryl's Titanium White. And any of you that know Pro Acryl's Titanium White, that is the best white that you can get on the market. By far. Like, that stuff goes on in one coat and does everything that you want. So if you're painting eyes, that's a perfect paint because you can thin it down just that little bit so it goes on super easy, but it goes on like in one coat and it's immaculate. It's a beautiful paint to work with. Yeah, Pro Acryl White is literally perfect. No notes. It's the greatest white paint that exists. I don't know how they've done it. I don't know if it's just pure pigment or what, but it works every single time. I am crazy and like the Games Workshop pots. Funny enough, once you learn how to clean a Games Workshop pot, they're actually surprisingly easy to live with. You do have to clean them quite often because the paint gets to the underside of the lip, but actually being able to work from that pot, just take the paint that you need, put it onto your wet palette if you've got a wet palette. Again, I go into I have basic instructions of how to paint things and wet palettes and stuff like that. Have a look through, I think it would be under possibly the 5 Space Marine painting guide. There'll be techniques in there, but I have a light description of things like wet palettes. Otherwise, I've done it on Patreon before where I have Q&As and stuff. I break everything down. Pro Acryl yellow is very nice too. I've not tried that, but for my yellows, I tend to paint things in pink and then go over that with Imperial Fist. So you end up with that nice golden yellow. So I've not had to play with anything else. Another question. If I want to paint my miniature, do I use a base paint or layer or contrast? I bought some paints, but not sure what are the differences. Okay, well, I can explain this quite nicely because I work with all of them. So they have quite a few different types of paints. The idea is base is a slightly more pigment rich paint. So within 1 to 2 layers of a base paint, ideally 2, because you want 2 thin coats, also the name of another paint brand. You want 2 thin coats so that you don't ruin the detail of your miniature. So get used to thinning down your paints a little bit. Wet palettes are great for it because you can also mix on them, and it keeps your paints wetter for longer so they don't just dry out and become useless. But yeah, thin layers of paint on your miniatures. 2 layers with a base should be enough. Layer paints are then designed to go on top of that, and they're a bit thinner so that you can apply them with like a thinner brush and they release more easily. You still want to thin them down roughly like, a third water to 2 parts paint. So if you did like 2 blobs of paint, like a third of water, mix it together, wash your brush out, dry your brush. This is, if you're a new painter, a lot of this is like probably going to be a little bit overwhelming. So for now, don't worry about thinning down your paints too much yet. Just get used to the idea of putting paint onto miniatures as thinly as you can. Don't like get a massive blob of paint out and just slap it onto that miniature, because you'll destroy the detail that you're paying for. And these miniatures are expensive because the details that you see are very expensive to create, especially to do it perfectly. So yeah, contrast paints are a different ballgame. So this miniature, for instance, has been base coated. It's been primed in that gold. You can go over this entire miniature with a contrast paint called Dark Oath Flesh. And that contrast paint doesn't just change it doesn't just add depth by filling in like the recesses of the miniature, because it acts as like a shade, which is like a thin paint that is designed to pull pigment in the deepest parts of the miniature and then leave the highlights. A contrast does that, but it tints everything. Everything gets some form of tint change. So if you did this, it comes out as a super rich gold. I'm just trying to think. In fact, I will bring an example of what this sort of gold looks like when you add a contrast paint to it. So if you guys want to stick around for that, we have, if any of you were on the stream yesterday, it is Dante. He is my golden boy, and he's amazing. I love him so much. All right, so here we have Dante. So this is Retributor armor, which is a Games Workshop paint, a Warhammer paint with Dark Oath flesh. So if you can see down by his little bum armor, you have all of that depth up to the edges. That has been highlighted on that edge, but most of this miniature is just contrast. So if you look towards his abs, for instance, they are entirely contrasted in. So it turns this style of a gold into this more aged reddish gold. So it completely changes the way that an entire paint looks. It fills in recesses, so you get a lot of depth to your miniatures. It is almost like cheating. The only time that you don't want to really use contrasts, or certainly you need to change your technique up with like certain contrast thinners, is on flat panels, because that same pooling thing where this is a very fine pigment, and so it gets that nice pooling into the recesses and only lightly tints the top. When you have a big flat panel, what that ends up doing is leaves like splodges. You don't want splodges on your tank panel because it looks unnatural. You can create gradients, but there's other ways to do that. And painting tanks, I do differently to painting miniatures, because the scale of a miniature means that you can get away with having, very few flat panels. Was there a helicopter out there? We have a helicopter somewhere in the vicinity. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that is surprisingly loud. So hopefully that's useful to you. Again, whilst you're at this stage and you're learning, play. Playing is the best thing. You can't do anything right or wrong. Arguably, you can put on super thick paints and completely kill the detail, but you will learn a lesson in doing that, in that it removes all the detail. So hopefully learn that lesson before you try it, but equally, just learn to play. If there's a color that you don't know how it would react to apply like a shade onto it, apply a shade, see how it looks. If you don't like it, with anything like this, you can always submerge them in like 90% isopropyl alcohol for about 2 days, 48 hours-ish, and then get like a brush, an old brush ideally, and just brush off all the paint. It will just literally dry up, remove itself, and yeah, you end up with like fresh plastic again. So never feel like you're going to make a mistake that you can't fix. But play around. Try different techniques that you're going to learn. You're going to find a lot of them on YouTube. I have a lot of techniques that I use. If you go through any of my painting challenges, every single painting challenge will have something that you will learn from it in terms of a painting technique, because I learn new things as I'm going along as well. However, I've been doing this for about 25 years with I think it was about a 10-year hiatus, but still 15 years, and from a very young age. So you learn motor skills. It sounds stupid. I don't know how old you are, but the older you get, the harder it is to be able to like be nice and steady with your hands and stuff like that. You want to increase your visibility. So you want, ideally, if you can get something like a magnifying lens, like a 2x magnifying lens with a light attached to it as well. Good lighting, magnification if your eyes aren't up to snuff of like seeing these details close up. And then, yeah, for the rest of your painting journey, it's a lot of trial and error, playing around, learning techniques, learning to thin down your paint. Yeah, don't stress, enjoy the process, experiment, be creative are my tips for newcomers to this hobby. And Wojtek, you're absolutely right. That is literally what it's all about. Just enjoying painting is more important than anything else. Because if you don't enjoy painting and it becomes a chore, you miss out on a big part of this hobby that you could still enjoy and love. And again, these are expensive ass miniatures. Like, enjoying the process and enjoying every aspect of this hobby is the value added that you get for these expensive miniatures. So take your time, enjoy it. Just to throw my 2 pence in, keep pieces of the sprue to test colours on too. If you're a new painter, it can help know how something is going to cover and help to practice with edge highlighting. Absolutely right. 100%. That is a great technique. Thank you, Aaron. So yeah, these leftovers are all useful. What I've been doing recently is, let's say, tinting some of the clear plastics. So if you look at Zeratul there, you can see his green blade. It looks neon in this light. It's not quite as neon in real life, but it is certainly, you know, glowing green. And if you want to test that technique without actually sacrificing the plastic that's on your miniature, yeah, you've got little sprue bits on here. So I had gone on to the Archon forum, so the Discord, and just had a look, see who else had painted them up, what techniques were working for them. I don't use an airbrush. Part of my techniques is literally using brushes for everything. So all my gradients, volumetric highlights, terms that at the minute might seem unfamiliar, these are all things that I do with a brush rather than with like a little spray thing. I say a little spray thing. It's a very useful tool, but there are ways around it. You don't have to have one. If you get one later down the line, it's a useful bit of kit. Otherwise, don't stress it. It's really not the end of the world. Let's have a look at what time we're on. Going to 8 o'clock. Okay. We'll probably stick around for another half an hour. So any questions that you do have, as always, just leave them here. If you have any other questions after this, the video that's coming out next will be on Friday, which will be the 12-hour painting challenge of the Protoss Starter Set. So if you do want any additional questions answering that come up in that time, just head over to one of my videos and just leave a comment. Like, YouTube makes it super easy for me to respond to comments. Aside from ones that are comments on the ones that I leave on the videos, if you reply to those ones, I have like only one way to find them, and it's on like the main YouTube app. It's really weird. Like any other, like I can go into Creator Studio and I can respond to anything. Anyway, that's behind the curtain stuff with YouTube. But leave a comment wherever you leave it. I will find it and I will respond to you. A bit like Taken, I have a certain set of skills, and I'm not afraid to use those skills to tell you good techniques to paint, to try at least. Right. Here's the adept that we have. Do you know what? We've not been doing nothing. We've allowed the glue time to dry. And the other thing actually as well, I've spoke about priming on sprue for when you've got these clear plastics to add to your miniatures. The glues that we're using, which is also equally important, we are mixing glues. So we have Tamiya extra thin cement. You can get this and you can get it in a quick setting form as well. Both are good. This one takes a tiny bit longer. It really isn't that much of a difference. That goes in, or the little brush that is attached to it. I'll just dry it out a little. So this brush here, it does something called the capillary effect. So the brush fills up with liquid. You put two pieces together and you dab it in between the gap between the two pieces, and it will literally infill instantly, and it will fill every section that is touching. Now, you have to make sure that your fingers aren't in the way of any like grooves that this might find its way into. Otherwise, it will leave like fingerprints when it touches your fingers and capillaries across there. It's capillary in terms of like the physical effect, not in terms of the biological style of a capillary. But it literally does just mean that you do no effort. It finds its way into every nook and cranny, and it slowly starts to melt the plastic together. Now, when you prime your sprues or you prime these pieces, they take a little bit longer to dry than it would normally be because it has to melt through the paint layer first before it can get the plastic to adhere to each other. It's not a massive time difference. I mean, certain bits like these clear plastics take a little bit longer because they are harder plastic. They're not just clear. They are a more, I'd say brittle, but they're just a harder form of plastic. So your softer, more opaque plastics melt together quite quickly. They take a little longer. It's not a big deal. But if you find anything, especially with this technique, is only held on by a tiny little bit of material, jump to things like your Citadel / Warhammer plastic glues. There are other manufacturers that have bottles very similar to that with the same sort of precision nozzle. You only need a tiny bit of glue. You really don't need a lot. And that is then going to adhere tighter or adhere better than the Tamiya because that's a gel. It's a bit thicker and it leaves a bit more residue to hold everything together. They're both very good glues, and you'll hear people tell you that one is better than the other. I tend to find that Tamiya you can use 95% of the time and the effects of it are perfect. But there's 5% of the time where the adhesion is not good enough. Citadel plastic glue fixes that problem for you. And you can do things like super glue, but this day and age where we have less resin and metal components, plastic glue is everything that you need. So hopefully that's really helpful to you. Just like to get your name. Joe Nice Smile. I hope you have a nice smile. Right. Let's get some plastic built up because I am absolutely miles behind. Now, they've made these super obvious to apply. So I'm just going to click these together a little bit, and then I'm going to see if I'm able to build this in like what's called subassembly, which is you don't put your miniature together entirely so that you can come back to it. And then if there's any areas that you can't reach, then you can do that after the fact. All right, that appears to be attached. And then if I was to pull back on that, you see the cape in there. This is also what we call dry fitting. So this hasn't had any glue on it, so you can just take it apart, take it off. So dry fitting just means that yeah, you don't have to commit to that piece going on at that second. So dry fit away, make sure things fit the way that you want them to fit, and if they're not fitting correctly, you have time to fix it. So I would love to build this miniature without attaching these capes so that I can paint the inside of them a bit better. What's going to happen here is I can see these miniatures are obviously quite complex in their shape in terms of like having access to things when you stick a 40mm base on it. So you'll find that actually getting your paintbrush into certain segments of this miniature are nigh on impossible. So for this particular miniature, the Adepts, I'm going to build them up entirely, or I think I'm going to build them up entirely. We might see about the little backpack generator thing. But I'm not going to glue them onto their base so that I can paint the insides of these capes. So literally from that kind of an angle, get access to everything that you need. That way, when I do my miniature showcases at the end of the challenge, you can go, oh, look, he got all of those details in. And then you just adhere it to the base afterwards. And with these Protoss miniatures, and probably with the Terran and Zerg, when I'm applying it to the base, I'm usually applying the Citadel plastic glue first. And then once it's like semi-adhered, or when it's adhered nicely enough, I'm then just putting a little dab of Tamiya just to spread everything out a little bit more. That's getting me a really strong bond. Certain things that aren't getting glued down till after the base is painted as well. We have things like the Sentry. So again, if you look at that little blue section at the very bottom, which is just there, let me just angle that correctly. That is where this miniature adheres to. Nothing else really touches that base. So it has this effect of floating. So again, that is something that is going to get done at the very end when I'm happy with the miniature, when the base is all complete. But that one needs adhering down with Citadel plastic glue. Tamiya is not going to be strong enough to hold that down, nor is it going to be thick enough to like fix the gap between the texture of the base and the smoothness of that little section that's going to fit. Tamiya does also have a thicker glue that is stronger. You are right, and it has a brush. For me personally, I prefer the precision nozzle for gels. Again, play about. You know, you might use the regular thicker Tamiya and you find that it's perfectly useful for you. For me, the extra thin stuff is like the perfect thing 95% of the time. And then when I need something thicker, I want that precision of that nozzle. Everything was of help. Good. Again, I'm here for you guys. At the end of the day, I'm here to serve. So anything that you guys actually need, just leave it in the comments. I'm there for you. Again, I'm not here for a short time or a good time. I'm here for a long time and a good time, preferably. Right. I'm going to move that base. That base is throwing me off. I'm going to get this glued into place now. Which piece are you? There we go. Right. So again, with this, dry fit it in place. Find a spot to put your finger where the capillary effect isn't going to move loads of plastic glue onto your finger. You just want it to adhere between the two bits of plastic. And in this case, we're going to go just in from behind. We've just gone in from down that little edge. And we're just going to let that adhere, which it should have done now. And then that's going to dry roughly over the next anywhere between a minute to two in terms of like fully curing. Maybe a bit longer for fully curing. Sometimes it does take like a little while, especially when it's working its way through paint. Again, same with this section on here. We're just going to be putting our glue just in that little gap down the very bottom. I have to do this looking at it. I can't just do this to camera, I'm afraid. Otherwise I would, but if you can see, there's like a little bit of moisture down there. That is adhered quite quickly too. Right, so we can leave that to it. I have found the capillary effect has found some glue to go up the model. So my finger is slightly tacky. Again, it won't burn you or anything like that. It's not that kind of glue. It is essentially acetone. If you wanted to like get the nitty gritty of what you're actually working with, the active ingredient is acetone. And then things like your gels are basically like stabilizers so that you can place down a bigger gloop of it and it won't just dry out immediately. So there's little things like that, little solvents that are just designed to keep it stable but stop it from instantly drying the second that you pull it out of the packaging. Also, stay hydrated. The other thing, tomorrow's challenge is going to be like, in the UK, 31 degrees Celsius. So I think in American terms, that's about 90 Fahrenheit. Am I right? 85 to 90 Fahrenheit. In this room, it's probably going to be around about 35 degrees. I'm going to be melting. So I do appreciate when the video does come out on Friday, just leave a little bit of like and some love for it, because I'm going to be dying a little bit doing that video. But stay hydrated. It does the world of good for your body. Right. Cape is on. Now we have the front armor piece. Okay, so she does actually cover herself up a little bit, which is kind of useful when you're going out into the front lines. You do want a little bit of protection. A9 by any chance, yeah. Also, in terms of like the miniatures that I've built, I only have the Adepts and 1 Sentry left to go, and technically a Sentry force field. But if that's not the easiest thing in the world to paint, then I don't know what is. Oh, sorry, build. Literally 3 pieces that just clip together. Right. And you'll also find when you're clipping off your little components, again, I go through the full process in the comprehensive guides and even the guide that we do just for the StarCraft one. Something like the edge of your clippers, you have like a nice 90-degree angle on that, but it's not sharp enough where it's going to cut you. And you do it like peeling a potato. You just run like that over like any gates that are still remaining on your miniature. So again, watch the fully comprehensive guide if you've got the time, because that goes through what a gate is, and then I don't have to explain it. But obviously when you've been in the hobby for long enough, people understand what that is. But yeah, you just want to scrape off any excess so that, again, your miniature that you spent a lot of money on is looking as good as is possible. Now, mold lines on these miniatures have been relatively minor. I did find Artanis had like a little line. Hi, Pat. 6th to the key. You're absolutely not the 6th person to watch. If anyone wants to decrypt his secret Halo speak. No, there's probably been a good number of people that have been in, but obviously sustained people in is a very different thing. Right, so this miniature here, we've got a split in this section where this is supposed to go. This is a weird looking component, to be honest. Not entirely sure how this is supposed to fit. Oh, I get it now. Right, okay. Sometimes when you see the instruction guides, I will give you the example on here. So for this instruction, we are working on this section here. That fits down to that section, which I thought covered her top half. It's not unlike Archon to cover up certain details of the miniature with more miniature, despite the fact that they put all of the details and hard work into it. But in this terms, what it means is it's just dangling a little bit lower down. Actually finding the point in which that is going to sit in correctly is going to be interesting, because it doesn't seem to want to click in anywhere. And the worst case scenario is this is just kind of floating. Yeah, this is exactly the example of where we use Citadel's plastic glue, which is this miniature. There's like a little V between these 2 pieces on here. And this is supposed to fit in. Just see if I can actually hold it in place, which I don't think I can, but I'll try like that. So this is like hand jiu-jitsu to move my hand in the right place. So you can just see it's like a little loincloth bit. That is impossible to hold whilst putting down plastic glue, and it's still like retaining the way it what's the word I'm looking for? Impossible to apply it with the Tamiya glue because it's too thin. So we need the precision applicator so that we can sit it on, and then the gel holds it whilst the plastic glue is actually melting. That's what I'm looking for. because the extra thin stuff is just going to go straight on your fingers and leave fingerprints everywhere, which is not what we want with our expensive miniatures, guys. We want them to look as good as possible. So we leave down some plastic glue. Hey, how are you doing, Coffee and Hobby? How are you? I hope I wasn't being an ass in DMs. I didn't mean to be if it came off that way. Absolutely not. In terms of like direct messages, I don't think YouTube has them. So in terms of like the comments on chat from yesterday, no, you're awesome. Don't worry about it. Have you seen the latest update in not Creator Studio, but in YouTube Creators? They are changing the minimum requirements to get monetized. So it comes into effect from February the 1st. Again, I highly recommend you go on vidIQ and just have a little look at that if you've not already, just so that you know what is coming. The requirements to make YouTube Partner have changed, and I would say not in the best way for new creators. So just get yourself up to date on that. Getting this thing lined up and in the correct spot is quite difficult. The gel is holding it in place absolutely fine, but actually, like, where this is supposed to sit just feels wrong. That's why. Okay, so one of the capes had moved out of place. Again, we're using the regular Tamiya on Instagram. I'll have a look on Instagram to just so you know. Today specifically, up early, off to work, 6 shows in quite a bit of heat. I think it was 33 degrees when I got in my car. I was in a Dragon animatic at one point, and that is boiling hot and heavy. Fun. I'm an actor. If you don't know me personally, do all sorts of different forms of acting. So theatre. I also do voiceover. I'd move this, but it's a bit too tight to the wall. But essentially, I have my voiceover booth right here, and I have voiceover equipment in there. And I do TV and film stuff as well. So I do a little bit of everything. Yeah, go back to the point. The Tamiya extra thin, going through the plastic, sometimes it is taking a little bit longer to cure. Like it's holding, but it's not cured fully. And so the cape had, whilst I'm just holding it, started to shift. So when I put this little section in, it did not fit flush. It actually looked out of place. Whereas now you can see that is fitting perfectly flush. Yeah, I'll have a check out of Instagram at some point tonight. Tomorrow is going to be a 12-hour painting challenge, and despite it being 12 hours, I tend to go into them fairly relaxed just because, I have a day to work on things. Also, tomorrow is the first day that I will tick over everything for the first stage of the YouTube Partner Program. So for all of you watching, I just want to say a big thank you, actually. Literally, my YouTube life, career, whatever you want to call it, really started in earnest about 8 months ago when I started with like the hobby stuff. And it's taken obviously a lot of hard work to get to where we are now, but building this community is amazing. So I just thank you all for actually sticking with me and supporting the channel, whether you're liking, commenting, subscribing, it doesn't really matter. Just being a part of this community, it means the world to me, just because I didn't really think that anyone would really tune in and listen to anything that I have to say. I have 25 years of experience and all that kind of jazz, but so do a lot of other people. So I appreciate if you guys watch anything that I make. It means the world. And going forward, if you love StarCraft stuff, we're doing lots of StarCraft stuff. If you love Warhammer stuff, I mean, Bob's always watching over my shoulder with a bolter, usually aimed roughly towards me. In fact, if I stand there and then put my hands up, Bob knows what he's doing. So, yeah, I make hobby content for all sorts of miniature games. So, yeah, thank you for just joining on this journey. Genuinely, I didn't think that we would get to where we've got. And for you as well, Coffee and Hobby, despite the changes that are coming in February, I sincerely hope that you're also able to get a little bit of inspiration from whether it's this channel or other channels. It doesn't really matter. The inspiration to create and enjoy and create this community. Honestly, it's such a wonderful community. The StarCraft side has been amazing. In Warhammer, the Orc side has been incredible as well. Space Marines are always a bit funny. No offense to a Space Marine player. I also collect lots of Space Marines. But yeah, it's genuinely nice to, have a space where people come and join in. Equally, if you're working on any projects, if you go over to my YouTube channel, there's a community tab there as well. Click on that. Please upload any work in progress. I don't care if it's StarCraft or Warhammer. I want to see what you guys are working on. Because again, as a part of that community, I want you to be a bigger part of it and feel like you belong here as well. It's not my thing, it's our thing. Because let's be honest, if I'm just talking into a camera and there's no one else watching or enjoying it or being a part of this community, talking to each other and whatnot, it doesn't really work, does it? Equally, that you guys enjoy what I make is just brilliant. Coffee and Hobby, I've been at this for over a year. The algorithm never seems to flow in my favor on YouTube. For the most part, again, I come from an entertainment background. So for me, again, and I said this yesterday, I can waffle for hours and hours and have done. It's been nearly 2 hours. For yourself, I would look into some of the technical aspects of filming. I will have a look at your channel at some point. I imagine you've put this in like DMs, so I'll have a look and see what's been said, what I can help you with. I'm happy to give advice. I want you to be successful. Again, I think a lot of people in any creative environment, especially if they're new, and again, I say this from an acting background, I've seen a lot of people like this. They become very selfish because they think that if someone can do something, or if someone is more popular than them, or they get more auditions, or they get more jobs, or whatever like that, that is directly impacting their success. And it's just not true. We can all be successful. There is plenty of jobs in terms of like the acting side of things, but in terms of this creative space, it's a huge community. And if you have something that you can say that people find interesting, go out and say it. Find your community, find your hub. And again, it's super rewarding. It is hard. Again, entertainment background, I have worked on films. I've written for, screenplays. I've written for video games. I've performed in so many different mediums that for me, even though I'm only recording on iPhones, I have a good idea of how something should flow and how a story should develop. So everything that I do has some form of story around it. The DM was mainly me feeling a bit annoyed about something you said about being understanding and trying to give you advice based on my experience and what I've seen to avoid the pitfalls I have. All right, cool. Well, don't worry. I'll have a bit of time tonight to actually go through and read it properly. Yeah, obviously without seeing it, I can't really comment. But in terms of YouTube itself, it's a very hard game to play. VidIQ is your number one, just to, again, in terms of like the community that I'm building up and working with, I don't find that it's useful all the time. Some of the things that they say are contradictory to what I find people actually care about. So you kind of have to play a bit of a game of learning what works for your community. For me, I figured that out. For you, it might take a bit of time. But yeah, learn editing. And again, I'll have a watch of a few of your videos when I have time. This month for me is insanely busy. As you can imagine, I've not even built the Protoss yet. I mean, I've almost built them, but they've not been painted. We have the regular Terran and Zerg. I have a lot of work to get on with, in addition to having shows all throughout the week. So when I have time, we can have a proper discussion on there. Also, at some point, probably in the next 3 weeks, once I've been through the YouTube partner program, we'll have access to memberships, and that will also be another way of getting access to the Discord as well as the Patreon that is down below. In the Discord, I obviously give free advice, not as in free advice as in I'm charging you to get advice. What I mean is it's an open discussion. I've had questions like how to do photography and stuff like that, which is like a degree course. So There's certain elements that are trickier to explain, but I have the experience to help you fix problems that you might have. So anyway, food for thought going forward. I have a YouTube channel with AI music, all songs with lyrics written by me. Got 16 subs. Cool. From an arts perspective, again, I use like vidIQ to make my thumbnails and stuff like that. I use it for my marketing packaging, and I use it for my SEO as well. So if you look in the description, the SEO on there is basically a nicer way of putting what used to be the tags that you would put in videos, so that YouTube knows what your video is for and who it should go to. So there's certain elements where I use things to help me as well. In terms of like the acting and the creative space, I obviously want human-led creative things. It's like, people do like AI backgrounds for miniatures for like, pictures and stuff like that on Facebook. I don't really mind. People throw out AI slop all the time, not from me doing it, but certainly from the aspect of a creator and an artist, and how art is very personal. It's a longer road to be able to learn how to compose music, obviously. And using AI as a tool, i.e., to create that track initially so that you can figure out what sounds you're hearing, what do you like, what layers are going in that make you want to keep listening, that make the experience feel immersive. That's the kind of thing that I would be working on then going forward. So it's like the AI is like almost the launch pad so that you know what you want to do, but then do the thing. Again, you've got things like Logic Pro that will give you access to like 3,000 different instruments at a time. Build everything up. It takes a lot of time, but the effort is at the end of it. It wasn't a prompt. It was you that made all of the music, not just the writing. But I understand. Look, for now, do what makes you happy. Modern AI is essentially an advanced calculator. Yes, it is. But it's also trained off of a lot of artists' work. It's obviously there's ethical issues, and we're not going to get into that. This isn't a politics stream or anything like that. But if you use it as a tool to help you learn, then I think that is more valuable to certainly get you the ear tuned in for what you want. I mean, equally, like for me, when from the acting perspective, if I play a video game, yeah, I'm enjoying the video game. Expedition 33 is a great example. I'm also listening to how those lines are delivered. Now, I'm not getting AI to write a game for me and then listening to what would not be the best version of that performance. I'm listening out to the things that I hear that work, the emotions that they put in, how subtle things are, how natural things are. Elements like that I find really, really useful. So play, learn, grow as an artist. If you need to use tools to help you get to a stage where you're comfortable making more yourself, absolutely, 100%. And we all have to learn. We all have to start somewhere. So especially when there's no budget involved, I understand that more than anything. That's the thing about this channel. This channel has been obviously at a lot of cost to me, which, the long-term prospect of it is that we have a nice big community and the channel then pays for itself and hopefully pays me to live, which would be lovely. Without the fan support, hopefully with like AdSense and, all the other good things that you get, like channel brand sponsors. I have an acting agent who's going to help me with things like that. So all that kind of stuff. The money comes later down the line with the creative arts, and it's incredibly frustrating unless you can have someone that backs you and trusts you and gives you the money to support you. That's incredibly rare. So, yeah, let's go through some of the comments. That is a Powder Krieg best avoid. Yeah, Powder Keg. Yeah, again, I'm obviously being very candid about this. I don't want you to feel like it's invalid or anything like that. It's not. But certainly, and I'm sure from even your perspective, you would be prouder of having put 1,000 hours into a song than, yes, you've created the lyrics. And again, you know, even to that point, you don't have to be every single instrument in the band. You can write the music. Find a producer, find a composer, find whoever you need to create the full picture. And this is essentially what a producer does. In this case, you'd be a writer producer, and find the people that would help you then finish off your vision. Now, the hard part, if there's no money in the game, is that you're basically having to tell people or ask people to do this free of charge. It's a hard ask. I've had it with the acting side of things. A lot of people want things for free, unless you live in the United States. In that case, the arts are well funded. In the UK, they're not, and it goes to very particular people. It's frustrating. But don't think that you're in this game alone. There's going to be plenty of people that want to help you along your journey as well. And it means that you're going to learn from them how to do the things that you want to be doing as well going forward. You don't have to be a one-man band, you know? So hopefully that's useful advice creatively as well. Again, actor of 10 years experience. I've seen big projects and I've seen little projects, and I've seen them do well and poorly because people don't want to work together. And when they work well, it's because the team's singing on the same song sheet. So they don't have to have massive budgets or anything like that. But yeah, I will move on from that topic because, yeah, we don't want to go too deep into the roots. But if it comes to any creative things, then you want advice, I'm also here. Just leave things in comments, Instagram, whatever, DMs. I don't mind. I'm here to talk and to, like I say, help bring value to you guys. Okay, so on to this adept, finally. We're on to another clear piece. So we have the start of their back portion, and we have, what part is that? A22. Let's see if we can find that piece. A22. Being extra careful to definitely make sure that you're only clipping off the gates, because I did on the sentry clip off the piece that puts the whole front of the sentry onto the little energy ball there. It was a very easy mistake to make, unfortunately. But yeah, also Wojtek, don't hopefully none of this is taken to heart or anything like that. I'm not trying to minimalize, what's the word I'm looking for, to devalue your art. That's not what I'm looking to do. But certainly there are multiple ways that you might not have thought of how to create the thing that you want and involve more people, and that tends to be a good thing as well. And Coffee and Hobby, a friend of mine is streaming, so I'm going to have to pop off. If you're still on when they finish, I'll return. I like your vibe now that I'm watching with a clear head. Well, if you do come back and watch this later on, I hope that you had a good watch of their stream as well. And yeah, 100%, just pop in when the time suits. Again, we are looking going forward to doing this once a week. I am going to be heading off in a couple of minutes. We will get this little backpack thing on, and then we're going to have to finish the rest of these behind the scenes because I think my fiance has got home, which means it's time for me to finish up, because I would also like to see her. And I'm obviously going back and forth on here. I get distracted a little bit. So it would be nice to get all these miniatures finished before tomorrow, so that when we do go into the challenges, we're doing it with all the miniatures ready to go. Again, they're going to look really cool, especially because they're Starcraft stuff. Okay, what part is that? That's B. We don't want to clip that, even though I started it. A11. Lord knows which side that's on. We're going to figure it out together. Hi, Aaron. Told you the first adapt takes ages. Do you know what? I would say, I will say, yes, you are 100% right. But also, I do these live streams and I quickly get distracted. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's better. I would rather have conversations with all of you and slowly make my way through these miniatures, and you guys all have a bit of a better time, learn something new, especially if you're new. I know StarCraft is particularly poignant for new players into miniature games in general. So if I can teach you a thing or two with my 25 years of experience, then that is the better trade-off than, hey, look, I built all of my miniatures, but wasn't the stream useless to you other than that? So yeah, I want to make these more fun. And again, tomorrow, ideally, I might have 1 or 2 live streams. There might be certain parts of the live stream where I don't think I can pause out of this. No, I can't pause out of this. We might end up having an hour-long stream, and then I just have to continue recording the video. I can probably get away doing 2 streams at max. Maybe for the beginning where everything's getting shaded so you can learn basic techniques. But even then, I have to build up some form of story throughout the video so that, we have something that's moving forward and always feels like something interesting is happening. Now, I can do a lot of that in the edit, but I also need to make sure that whilst I'm recording that I'm also hitting the parts that I can't then just go back into and re-record something that didn't happen. So yeah, it's an interesting journey to do. And if any of you are in that creative space, you understand the amount of effort that has to go into these things. Right, I'm just going to quickly figure out which side of this is which. Talking about this adept being a bit confusing. No worries, mate. I did it just for fun. Had written lyrics for years, discovered AI music creation, did it, that's it. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, sorry. It's probably more poignant to me because at the minute, especially in the voiceover world, we're all fighting AI trying to replace us in things like video games where they're not going to be anywhere near as good or emotive or understanding as we are. Again, a machine can learn a lot of things, but a machine can't learn experience, and it can't experience things directly. So, there's certain things that we can put into things that a machine will never think about, despite it scalping every ounce of data it can. So yeah, specifically poignant just to me for that bit. Right, let's see if we can figure out which side this is technically supposed to go on. Because, yeah, you look at part number 8 there, or step number 8. Figure out which bits of that is which side. You're right, Aaron. They did make that interesting. Yeah, exactly. A machine, it doesn't have soul, and yeah, they never will be. I mean, creative is an interesting term because you can obviously program something by a human to do things that you want it to do. But equally, it's never going to be the be-all and end-all that is going to be... Have we got... Okay, I've just found a little spot on here. Maybe that's right. What if it's wrong? Does it matter? No, I don't think it does matter which way around it is, actually. I think I'm being overly precious. So, yeah, even when it comes to doing painting of miniatures and stuff like that, when you paint a miniature to a scheme that is new to you, you're doing that with the idea in your head and making it come to life. It's a tricky thing to do. It's a skilled, form of art. Just find where I can pinch this where it's not going to dry up immediately. Okay. Yeah, this adept piece is frustrating. Specifically this bit. The rest of it's reasonable. Frustratingly reasonable, but reasonable. I love the shade, though. The adept shade is, amazing. I appreciate the chat and keeping me sane at work. Are you on the Archon... what's the words I was going for? The Archon Discord. I remember someone saying that they were going to join on, just put headphones in the background. So every now and then, one of my jobs is subcontracted engineering. So I do die cast tool polishing, which is a mouthful. But part of that, the company is very relaxed on how I operate because I'm subcontracted. So I can literally just whack in some headphones and listen to some podcasts or videos or whatever. Doesn't matter. As long as I'm doing the job, they don't care, because I can work all sorts of hours. So for me, I always have something going on, and I don't know if it's like an ADHD thing that I always have to have something going on in my head. Otherwise, the silence is too deafening for me. But certainly, it's a nice thing to have. All right, let's go see how this sits on. This clipping onto the bottom sections. Okay, that's not too bad. I presume the bottom piece of this then is going to be painted. Looking at how it's sat there, it looks like a piece of that metallic structure. So the one thing I really like with Warhammer that I've not seen yet through StarCraft is they always have like the 360 images, high-res images of their miniatures. So you go to Caiaphas Cain and you go, I wonder what the back of his miniature looks like. Just go on the website, spin him around, and you go, oh, okay, found it. The way that Archon has obviously done the setup to make this pre-order set and things like that, we've not had any access to these 360-degree images or just any images at the back for months now. And if you didn't save them at the time, they're kind of not there, so you can't really do anything about it, which, again, talking mildly frustrating things. Machine doesn't know, so it isn't creative. AI always creates based on something that already exists. It only changes things, at least until now. Yeah, again, it's there's the ethical side of it, and there's obviously the actual tool side of it. I think it can be a very useful tool. Again, with my thumbnails, I can give it objects, and I can tell it, this video in this location, create something from the things that exist using all of these. That's how I tend to create my thumbnails, because they come out and they look reasonably good. I'm quite happy with them. Ideally, I would do everything in Photoshop, and I did do up to a point. It could only get me as far as I could get, and everything sort of slows down where nothing quite looks as professional. And I think in terms of like thumbnails, certainly, we're seeing a trend where everyone is now starting to jump onto using various tools, whether it's vidIQ or whatnot. I don't think it's a great environment to do it. I think we're in a creative space, but I also have to be competitive. And the frustrating thing is, for me, if I have, for instance, tomorrow's video, that's 12 hours of recording with roughly about 6 hours of editing, roughly. So that is an 18-hour video, not including setup, not including like, putting everything back, close down and that of the set of the studio. There is certain elements that take so long, you probably are looking at 20 to 22 hours in total. We'll call it 20. I think 20 is a fair number for a 12-hour long shoot. And the end video is going to be around about the mark of 20-ish minutes, roughly. So there's a lot of chopping things down. Obviously, it's not a 12-hour continuous shoot. We are like going in and cutting out the story elements and putting them all together so that you have a little bit of a guide with a little bit of a story, a little bit of like how I know these techniques work, what I've done them on prior, like the lion, a little bit like what you see in here. So there's lots of elements of which creating that story takes a lot of time. So you have an end product that you're really proud of, that you spent 20 hours in the creation of. And you can have that video reach so few people if you just mess up the marketing. So one of the biggest takeaways with YouTube, and if you do come back to this video coffee and hobby, this is a big takeaway for you, but I'll talk to you later on as well. Marketing and production go hand in hand. And it's the exact same for TV and film. It's the exact same for video games. There is no point spending £200 million on your Marvel film if, 500,000 people watch it and you don't make your money back, because, they're a business. So what they do is they spend about a third of their budget, or they split the budget in 2/3. So 2/3 of that is the entire production, filming, paying everyone, editing it, all that. And a third of that budget is just marketing. That's how big TV and industry and stuff like that works. So there's lots of money that gets spent. So your £200 million Marvel blockbuster will have a £100 million worldwide global marketing campaign made for it. So they have to make back £300 million for a film that cost £200 million. And of course, they'll have investors that they want to pay back. So it's complicated, but also it goes to show how important marketing is in this kind of environment. And again, I consider this to be a creative environment of which the world is your oyster in YouTube. You can create TV and film. If any of you go onto like the movie channel on, the movie Cauldron on YouTube, you'll see some of the projects that I've been in that are smaller indie stuff. So again, feel free to go ahead off and look at things like that, because that is another element of YouTube that I think is very interesting, that you do have some higher quality productions that exist here. I mean, obviously you have like your Mr. Beast, which is massive studios, but then you also have these small channels like myself with smaller communities, and we're trying to grow and find our community as a whole. And certainly from my perspective, I want my videos to be successful because I want obviously a larger community, and a larger community means several things to me. It means that you guys can all interact and get to know each other as well, which I think is super useful from a hobby perspective, because, you've got, whether it's Aaron is looking for something, or Wojtek is looking for, a new technique, or endless possibilities. You might have the answer to their question, and I will have a certain idea of, or a certain perspective of how I would do something. It might work. It might not work for you. So all these perspectives, they're not competing for the same space. They're interlocking. They're filling up a toolbox for you. So yeah, having a large community, I think, is the best thing. And again, that community tab, post what you're working on, because it helps other people as well. It stays motivated. You might have a technique, or you might have painted something up in a certain way, and someone's going to go, how did you do that? And you have a chance to explain and actually go into your art, which I think is one of the best things about YouTube. Instagram is cool. I don't post on there as often as I should, because I find that YouTube Shorts actually gets a bigger audience. And TikTok is same. It's kind of like a very short-lived period where your video exists. So I don't like the way that those two systems operate. I like Meta in that you post one thing and it goes on two things. It goes on Facebook as well. But in terms of like when I create a short, YouTube has everything that I need for our community to thrive. You can post on there. We can interact quite comfortably. I can live stream from here. I can release all manner of videos on here. All of it is just in one space. And for me, that's a lot easier. Like the benefits for me is that I don't have to post on 3 different channels, even though I should do. 3 channels, I mean 3 different social medias. Even though I could do and possibly find an even wider audience. YouTube does such a good job at finding the right people, because they don't push your videos out. They pull your video to the right people. So it's a very different system to like Facebook. So anyway, all that being said, I am going to call it there, because like I say, my partner is back and she will probably want something to eat, as will I. I've had even less food than I think I had Monday's live stream. Just literally an ice lolly, and I don't even think I had a banana. So I've just had so little food. But that is our adept for now. Next up will be her arms and stuff like that, but I have the other 3 to do as well. The last of these shields, the last century, and then all of my miniatures are ready for tomorrow's painting challenge, which I'm really looking forward to. So thank you all for coming in. I'm sorry, Aaron, if I'm cutting this a bit early whilst you're working as well. I hope the rest of your work day goes really well. Thank you again, Wojtek. I really appreciate you. I'm just double checking that I'm actually saying your name right again. Just have to be absolutely right. Go back through the comments just so I can find it correctly. I think it was earlier than that. Okay. Yeah, Wojtek. Thank you. Yeah, and thank you. Good luck for tomorrow. Yeah, 100%. I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. Again, I don't put a massive amount of weight onto the results because it's a challenge standard, but I think you'll actually find the results of this are going to be really good because there's less miniatures than, say, like the Zerg or the Terran. The original plan was Zerg and the Terran were going to be done in separate challenges, but both of them were going to be 48-hour challenges. Not 48 hours as in 48 hours of painting, but as in 2 days from start to finish. So within the space of a week, I would have had that all painted, the Protoss all painted, but because we got them so late, I don't have the free time to do a 2-day challenge for both of those. So what we're actually going to end up doing, I think it's going to work better. We're going to have paint guides, things like that. We're going to have showcases towards the end of it, and we're going to have more live streams. So if you do enjoy these live streams, again, thank you for joining us because this is actually been quite an eye-opener. I've not done live streams since I think it was the beginning of March, and I really enjoyed them. But again, smaller channel back then, less community, less people to actually interact with. Whereas now, I think we've had a really nice back and forth. I've enjoyed like just chatting away to you guys and building the rest of my century and half of an adept. I don't do well building in these videos, but painting might be a bit easier. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all hopefully on Friday's video. Take care. I'll see you all later.